We're
Cameraman Wes, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Hey, we're here at Gillispies Cigar Bar in Martinsville, Indiana. We have already fired up a cigar. We've already gotten a cocktail.
All right.
Um, you know, it's just time to let everybody know what the Steel Horse. The podcast is Steel Horse Thunder, but the podcast itself is going to be Steel Horse Thunder and beyond.
And beyond, yeah.
And beyond. I mean, obviously, Steel Horse Thunder motorcycles.
Mhm.
It's just a quick history on Steel Horse Thunder. It was started in the year 2000 by a man named Steve Reeves. Retired as a school teacher, wanted to do something about motorcycles. The whole purpose of the show was to explain that motorcyclists are good people and the way they give. We always hear about the 1%ers all the time, and the reason they're called 1%ers is because they only make up 1%.
Yeah.
This shows the other 99% of motorcyclists, charity rides, all the good things they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of how the show got started. 2000, it was a completely different world.
Right.
Very few people had computers at home.
Yeah.
So it was a way to reach people. It was a half-hour weekly TV show. And, for about 9 years, the TV station owned the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then Steve Reeves managed to get it back from them.
That's right, yeah.
And then I believe it was 2012 was when, he did 12 seasons.
Yeah.
His last season, I joined him at that point in time.
Yeah, you were part of that last season.
And I joined him so he could teach me kind of how to do things. And then we've been doing it ever since. Now here, since last year, we finally left TV.
Right.
Now we go straight to YouTube, straight to Facebook, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like anything else since 2000. We're not doing anything the same way as we were doing anything back in 2000. So now we're finally stepping into the podcast era. Uh-huh. And that's what, Steel Horse Thunder, we're obviously going to be bringing in motorcyclists.
Right.
But I want to talk more than just the motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably be my first question. What kind of motorcycle do you ride?
Right.
What's your favorite motorcycle? Whatever. But then after that, I want to kind of get into some of the other stuff of what people are doing. I've got somebody that, they're a big rider, but they put on a ton of charity rides. They do all this stuff. I want to talk to them about that. But then afterwards, I found out, man, this cat was in the rodeo.
Right.
He's rode bulls or whatever. I don't know.
It's crazy. I can't wait to talk to him.
So it's like I want to find out. I want to find out more about it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why it's Steel Horse Thunder and beyond, because we're going to venture away. We're sitting here right now. We're smoking cigars at Gillispies Cigar Bar.
Right.
And, I want to talk about the cigars we're smoking, not that we're cigar aficionados or anything like that. We just enjoy smoking a cigar every now and then.
Just started smoking these, 4 months ago, 5 months ago. So, yeah.
Yeah.
My take is brand new.
Right. No, and I've only been smoking them. I mean, and again, when I say smoking a cigar, it's like forever. I smoked maybe one a month. Maybe one a month, and I've smoked everything from the little wood tips to the backwoods to, all that kind of stuff. And then I finally started smoking regular premium cigars probably 10 years ago. But again, one a month.
Right.
I do smoke usually a couple a week now.
I was going to say, you got me smoking them now.
And
I a little more on occasion.
I do enjoy them. And so for the last several years, I probably average maybe 2 or 3 a week now.
Yeah.
Probably closer to 2, but still, just a few a week. But I really enjoy them. Yeah. So we're going to talk about it. And I don't know. I can't tell you all the different notes and all that stuff. No. I'm not going to tell you whether I taste, lavender and huckleberry and all that, rock moss or whatever. I know if I like a cigar and if I don't like a cigar.
Yep.
So. And I know this one right here, the Rocky Patel that I'm smoking right now, the San Andreas. I tried this the last time I was here and absolutely fell in love with it.
Right.
So I'm smoking it again tonight to kind of get a little bit better idea of what exactly I do like about it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I got the Isla del Sol Sunblest. I know a few weeks ago you gave me an Isla del Sol. I don't think it was the same as this because this does taste different.
Yeah.
It's still really good. I mean, it's Drew Estate, so everything I've tried from Drew Estate has been very good. But this one, it's just a really smooth cigar.
And generally on the sweeter side.
Yes.
Drew Estates has
I like the sweeter side.
Drew Estates does have a tendency to kind of lean more towards the sweeter.
Yes.
And but those are a good cigar. I think I had the Maduro,
Mm.
so it's a little stronger than that one.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
this one is definitely a lot lighter than the one you gave me.
Cool.
But it's nice.
It is. Man, we love this place here, Martinsville, Indiana.
Uh-huh.
Gillispies has been around now. They've already celebrated their first year anniversary, didn't they? Or is that coming up?
Actually, I believe they opened in 2020. I'm pretty sure they opened in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, and it was like they didn't know if they were going to be able to stay open because, the whole indoor stuff.
Right.
But I mean, they've done really good. I know they just hired a second bartender. So you got Santos, who's can make anything you want.
Right.
I mean, literally, you tell him what flavor you like, and he can make it with any alcohol, and you'll like it.
Yeah.
And I know Nina, the owner, she does bartending earlier in the night usually, and she makes really good drinks too. But they did just hire another actual bartender.
Nice.
So clearly things are looking really good. It's moving up. So that's a good sign. I mean, it's just, this place is amazing. I mean, the exposed brick in here, and then, I mean, they got all the nice leather chairs and everything like that. You got the music background playing. And, I mean, behind us, this massive humidor.
Well, I think it's kind of funny because we talk about the exposed brick and how cool it is.
Right.
And we picked the only,
Yes.
the only backdrop that doesn't have exposed brick is where we're sitting right now.
Yeah, maybe some other time we'll turn it around so you guys can see what we're talking about.
Yeah, because we want to make this our home base.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to be on location at places or whatever, I'm sure, but our kind of home base is going to be Gillespie's here. They've been so good to us, and we just absolutely love coming into this place. Yes. You know what I mean? So
it's always fun.
But yeah, we'll set up the next time. We'll set it up where we have a little different background. You'll see a little bit more of what the rest. But yeah, this is the humidor right behind us here, and
they do have quite a selection.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. We sat in there for quite a while,
right?
Because I knew I needed to pick a different cigar.
Yes, yeah.
And I went and looked at a bazillion different ones that I wanted to try, and I ended up going right back to this one because it was like, ever since I had it a few weeks ago, it's like there's just something about that cigar I really, really liked.
Right.
And I don't know what it is about it yet. I can't even tell you. All I can tell you is it's a Rocky Patel. It's the San Andreas, the black.
It's a sharp-looking cigar.
It's a box press cigar. So, some people don't like box press. Some people do. I don't care.
I've tried one,
but I think they seem to be a little bit tighter to me.
Yeah. I don't know. The one that I had tried is, I think it was when we did the Freebird Fest. Okay. I had a box press one then. I did not like that one. But I purposely tried that because I had seen it online. I was like, you know what? I really want to try this one. It just happened I didn't like it. But you're going to find that in cigars. So.
All right. I'm going to start off introducing myself just a little bit.
All right.
How we were good friends with Steve. Scott and Cindy were very good friends with Steve Reeves.
Uh-huh.
He asked us to come on board and wanted us to take the show over. He was turning 63, was ready to retire.
Right.
Going through a little rough patch in life. Wanted to just enjoy life for a while. Unfortunately, found out that he had cancer right after we took over and was not with us, but only a few weeks later.
Yeah.
We kind of did the show. I spent 25 years in a sawmill.
Yeah.
That was my profession. 25 years at a sawmill. Before that, I always worked construction. Mm-hmm. So if somebody would have told me right before you turn 50 years old, you're gonna start doing a TV show, that's what you're gonna do, I would have laughed like crazy. And yet here I am. But it was kind of one of those things. I am a minister. I have been an ordained minister since the 90s. Mm-hmm. So I've done a lot of speaking, a lot of public speaking, I've been in front of cameras a lot and all that. So that's why I was like, hey, Steve, I can help you. I'm drawing unemployment right now. I'd never
Right.
drawn unemployment a day in my life. Told my boss, the owner, I was like, dude, I'm with you sink or swim on this with the sawmill. It's not looking good, but I'm not leaving you. We're going to stick it out. It's the only thing I
Right.
say is, if we are going to close the doors, don't you dare do it in the wintertime.
Right.
Okay, we're here in Indiana, the winters can get
Yes.
kind of cold.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, I've never drawn unemployment a day in my life. And when we close these doors, if we close them, I plan on drawing unemployment and doing some motorcycle riding.
Right.
And so doors shut in June
Mm-hmm.
and the end of June. So I had that whole summer, basically, I got to ride the bike.
Nice.
Worked with Steve Reeves on the show, learned a little bit about it. And then, now we just finished season 11. We're getting ready to start season 12 of the Scott and Cindy version of Steel Horse. It was Steel Horse originally. We changed it to Steel Horse Thunder.
Right.
Just for copyright.
Legal purposes.
Yes. At the time, our number one sponsor, chief sponsor of the show, was a law firm, a personal injury lawyer firm. And that was the first thing he told us was, you got to change the name. I said, well, they don't mind if we use it. He goes, I don't care. You're changing the name. So we added Thunder to it.
Yep.
And now here for the podcast, we're going to add Beyond. So it's Steel Horse Thunder. Things are so much different now because back in the day, we used to watch the show so we could learn where these other charity rides were at.
Right.
And you may only have one charity ride a month that that's available.
Yeah.
Now we live in a day and age where here in Indiana, central Indiana, you have in the middle of the summer, anywhere from 10, 15, sometimes 20 rides in one day.
Yeah.
So back in the day, you had hundreds of people show up to your ride because there wasn't anywhere else to go. Now everybody's doing charity rides.
Right.
And so therefore now 50. You shoot for 50. Man, if you can get 50 bikes to show up to your charity ride, you knocked it out of the park because there's 15 other rides that people can choose from. And let's face it, most of the time you're either affiliated with the organization you're raising money for, or you're with, your friends of the person that's putting that particular ride on. So it's a whole different world now.
Mm-hmm.
We finally got it off the TV, finally got it onto, YouTube, onto Facebook. Facebook, we have absolutely crushed it on Facebook. Still working on the YouTube channel. And, the obvious next step was podcast.
Right.
And so here we are doing the podcast. Now, I know right now it's me and Cameraman Wes talking to kind of explain what's going on and stuff, introducing ourselves. But, this is Cameraman Wes. You're the one that kind of took this one on.
Yeah.
I know nothing about podcasts other than
either.
I like to listen to them. So,
no, I mean, I've learned a lot in the last 2 or 3 months. Just poring over everything that I could find for podcasts. Just because, that's literally where everything's going. I mean, anybody who has a show has a podcast on the side.
Right.
And halftime, if you have a podcast and it takes off, you end up having a show on the side. So either way, it was just the natural progression of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a learning curve because, like I said, I just started listening to podcasts last year, and I know the earliest ones came around about 2009.
Right.
So
been around a while.
They've been around a while. It's just amazing how many there are.
Mm-hmm.
The variety of them. So I think this one, Steel Horse Thunder and Beyond, is going to be pretty big. It's going to have everything that anybody could like. I mean, bringing in musicians, bringing in Jay from Abate.
Right.
Here in Indiana, he does so much at the State House with laws and everything, so people can understand a little better what Abate does.
Because quite a few states in this country have an Abate, and they represent motorcycles.
Right.
When it comes to, like you said, when it comes to laws, they make sure these laws are going to benefit motorcyclists.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something that's detrimental, they make sure that does not get passed.
Yeah, so I think it'd be really cool to have somebody on from there so we can kind of understand more in depth of what they actually do. and how they keep laws from being passed that would harm motorcyclists, stuff like that. Um, for me personally, though, this is the weirdest part: is that I'm not behind the camera.
Right.
I'm not a public speaker. I generally try to stay behind the scenes, so this will be fun. Learning something different, stepping out of my comfort zone a little bit.
Right. And let's face it, when we have guests on or whatever, there's a lot of times you will still be behind the scene and you will be taking care of the technical part of it. It's just kind of a fun adventure. It's, I want to explore other sides. Now, and like I said, I am a minister and have been an ordained Christian minister since the 90s. But one thing I've always said, I really don't plan on using this podcast. And don't get me wrong, I have a lot of minister friends that ride motorcycles, and we'll probably have some of them on there, and they will talk about their ministry.
Right.
I'm not here to promote or, you know what I'm saying? It's not like, listen.
We're not pushing people into religion and stuff like that. But that's a side of motorcycling.
It is a side of motorcycling.
There's a massive amount of Christian motorcyclists out there, and I mean, you got to hear everybody's story.
Exactly. And, so, I've always said, we are going to stay away from politics and religion.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to get on here and tell everybody the world's going to hell in a handbasket.
Right.
Whether it's for religious reasons or whether it's because all these politicians are all they're wanting to do. I want to stay away from that so badly. Time and place.
Right.
Time and place. And listen, I listen to some of these guys, some of these homesteaders that are letting you know, dude, you better be careful. This is what they're trying to do.
Right.
And I think we all need to be aware.
True,
but,
yes.
When it comes to religion, you have to choose for yourself anyway. That's all. You know what I mean? Everybody makes their own decision. And I'm all about freedom.
Right.
Freedom of choice, freedom of speech, freedom, of religion, freedom of all that stuff, man. You get to choose whatever you want.
Right.
So we're going to stay away from all those kind of hot topics.
Yeah.
I want to stay away from it. I got my beliefs. You got your beliefs. Whoever we have on here has their beliefs.
Right.
But I do want to I don't want it to keep it just motorcycles. I want to get out there. When we get this stuff figured out, Bubba Blackwell.
Yes. He'd be a great guest.
This man, I had the opportunity. You even had the opportunity on a few times to be able to work with him. I worked with him off and on for about 15 years as his announcer, as his ramp builder, as his mechanic, whatever. And I'm not a very good mechanic, I'm going to tell you right now. I was more the gopher than the mechanic when I worked with Bubba.
I was the flying soloist when I worked with Bubba.
Yes, you were.
A few thunderstorms on that one.
Yes, you did. You actually took an air ride.
I did. Not on purpose.
But even Bubba, there's so much more to him than just being a daredevil. There's so much more to him than, now listen, the reason people know who Bubba Blackwell is because he broke all of Evil Knievel's records the legit way. He got the same exact bike that Evil Knievel was riding. He got the blueprints for the ramps. So that way,
I didn't know that.
That way he made the exact same ramps. Okay. He built the exact same takeoff ramp that Evil Knievel used on his jumps. So because he wanted to go to, he loved Evil Knievel. He was a huge Evil Knievel fan. So he was like, well, I want to continue that legacy. He wore the red, white, and blue. He did, he did a lot of the evil stuff. Just the only thing he didn't do is he was kind of a squeaky clean kind of guy.
Right.
He wasn't a partier. He wasn't a drinker. He wasn't a smoker. He didn't do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
He would not come up here to Gillispies and sit in a smoky room.
Right.
To do a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, we might have to go to the Steel Horse Thunderdome for that one.
So, his personality was complete opposite of Evil Knievel. But he had so much respect for him, he wanted to keep that legacy going, and he did. And he went and he broke each one of Evil Knievel's records on the same style bike in the same ramps.
Yeah.
And so that way it's truly legit. Because other people have come along now and have done other things.
Yes. They're generally on dirt bikes.
They're usually on dirt bikes. and even Pastrana, who I'm a huge fan of, he was not doing the same stuff.
Right.
And he was not riding the same motorcycle and all that. So, I mean, as much as I love Pastrana, I think he's
he does amazing stuff.
And even the show he did when he was doing all of, One Up and Evil Knievel, it was like, I remember talking to Bubba about that. I'm like,
Yeah,
dude, does that bother you any? The fact that he's taking credit for all this when you did this all back in the early 2000s?
right.
And, Bubba is just such a good guy. His response was, you can't let facts get in the way with a good documentary.
That sounds like Bubba.
And that was just Bubba's outtake on it.
Right.
He's like, look, I love the guy. What he's doing is entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Let him do it. That was just how Bubba Blackwell was.
Right.
But there was so much more to him other than, besides just that, what is he doing nowadays?
Right.
Because he's got his own business now.
Yes.
He's retired from the motorcycle
Mm-hmm.
jumping. So that's the kind of stuff I want to do. I want to find out more in depth about other
Right.
people,
what
they're
have
doing.
a fun fact about that. I have a Guinness World Records book from, I want to say 2005 or 2006. And it actually talks about Evel Knievel and the records, but the picture is Bubba Blackwell.
Yes.
And they're claiming that it's Evel Knievel. So I have made sure I've kept that book. It is still sitting on my bookshelf because that's hilarious.
It is pretty funny. It is pretty funny.
Uh-oh. Scar went out.
So Wes, let me ask you a few questions here.
All right.
Now I know you've rode. You went through
The A-Bait course.
So you went through A-Bait safety.
I did go through the A-Bait safety course. It's been a long time ago now.
You learned to ride. So
Mm-hmm.
It's something we always really encourage everybody.
Put this down for a minute because it's not lighting.
We just encourage everybody go through learn to ride the right way.
Oh yeah.
When Cindy wanted to learn to ride her own motorcycle, first thing I did was signed her up for A-Bait to get into a safety course to learn the right way. She's like, you've been riding all your life. Why don't you teach me? I said, because I know a lot of bad habits.
Right. Yeah.
They don't. They're going to teach you the right way to ride.
Yeah.
I do not want to teach you bad habits that I have developed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the smartest thing I ever did. And I think everybody should go through it, whether you ride or not.
Right.
And I've said that from day one. All my kids went through the motorcycle safety course, riding course. Mm-hmm. And I told every one of them, I don't care if you ever ride a motorcycle.
Right.
I want you to go through the course because when you're out driving your car, it's going to make you more aware of motorcycles out on the road.
Right. Yeah, because when you go through the course, it teaches you so much more than just driving a car. I mean, you drive a car, you look left, you look right, you look left. But you're not paying attention as much as you should be. But when you ride a motorcycle, you learn, when you're on a motorcycle, especially smaller motorcycles, your view of vision from somebody else is literally maybe 1.5 foot wide.
Yeah, they're not going to see you.
They're not going to see you. So when you go through that course, it really teaches you how to look a lot better, how to be more aware when you're driving or riding. Mm-hmm. And I did mine, I think it was about 2005 when I went through the course. And I wish it would have went more. I do regret not riding after that, really. We had so many issues at that point with licenses because of the way the state of Indiana works. We had a lot of issues with permits, license, and all that, and so it ended up screwing up everything. So basically, even though I went through the A-Bait course, because I was so young, I still would have had to done another riding course once I got my license. Mm-hmm. And of course, I was young and stupid and didn't think to just go to, because I know there's license branches that you can just do a riding course and get your endorsement on there. Since I'd already done the safety course, I already knew what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I could have just went to the Indiana B&B course and done it.
But you were young. I mean, and that's why you couldn't hold 2 permits at one time. So you had to give up your motorcycle permit in order to have an automobile, a regular car permit.
Yeah.
And then let's face it, you're at that age. You know what I mean? You're getting into your 16, 17.
Right.
Now you got girlfriends and you got other things that you're wanting to do. And so motorcycles kind of took a back seat for you. But I know you and I actually rode way back in the day. We've rode. I've rode where you were on your bike behind me,
Right.
and that part's just kind of super cool.
Uh-huh.
And you never know. You know, your kids are grown up now and
Right.
everything else. You may find yourself back on a motorcycle at some point. But that was my whole thing. Was I just want everybody to go through a safety course just so they'll learn to watch out for motorcycles. Because, like you said, you're on a little bike. And even some of your even some like big Harleys, you get on the Dynas. Well, they don't have Dynas anymore; they're all soft tails now.
Right.
But still, you get on a Sportster, you get on a soft tail. That's a narrow motorcycle. Like you said, even with your handlebars and everything else, you're only a couple feet wide.
Right.
And it's hard to see.
People miss semis coming down the road.
Right.
So if you can't see a semi, you're not going to see a motorcycle.
And that's a great point, because how many times me looking.
Right.
I'm a very good driver. I have a commercial driver's license. I've logged hundreds of thousands of miles. Probably, I would have to say at least, I got to be close to 1 million miles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have to be at least up to 700,000 miles. This
Right.
time, I'm old.
Right.
But
not that old.
But there's still times you go to pull out, and there's somebody that's in a blind spot. And you go to pull out, and you're like, my God, I didn't even see him.
Right.
And we're talking cars, trucks, and everything else, not motorcycles. I'm talking about big vehicles. And it's like, damn, how did I not even see them?
Right. Yeah, there's a curve going to my house that at the light, when you turn left, the way the road curves just enough, it's right there where that bar is on the windshield, the frame of the car.
Yep.
And there's times I've completely missed cars that were coming down the road just because I didn't lean to the right a little bit to look around it.
No, and I've always said, people ask me about, what tip would you give? My biggest tip to anybody that's riding a motorcycle is, if you're riding in the daytime, this is in the daytime. When you're riding daytime, ride with your high beams on.
I've noticed a lot of riders do that.
Always leave your high beams on in the daytime. Now, you don't want to blind other vehicles.
Right.
You won't in the daytime.
Right.
But they will see you a lot better if you have that high beam on in the daytime. Now, at nighttime, you want to keep them adjusted. That way, like I said, I ride a Road King, an old Road King, and they have the big headlight and then the two spotlights.
Yeah.
Those spotlights, the way they're adjusted at nighttime, they kind of shine up into the people's windshield.
Because it's right at that level.
So I turn mine off and just use my regular dim light at nighttime.
Yeah.
And, people will say stuff to me about it. And they're like, dude, you leave them lights on. It's a man that blinds the other cars. And they're like, don't worry about that, man. You got to be able to have that light on, la, la, la. And I'm like, if I'm traveling down the road at 60 miles an hour, the last thing I want to do is impair the vision of the vehicle that's coming 60 miles an hour right at me.
Right.
The last thing I want to do is blind them. So it's like, no, I'm going to turn my dim lights on at nighttime, turn my brights on when I can. But daytime riding, I always recommend make sure you run your high beams during the daytime. So that's my
tip of the day.
That's my tip of the day right there. Yeah, that's my podcast tip of the day.
Right.
Is to do that. How did you get involved with filming? Now, your background, I know you've always worked.
Right.
I know you did DJing for a while.
Yeah.
So I knew you were a DJ.
Weird time of life. I think a lot of guys get into DJing at that teenage era. And it was fun. I'm not going to lie. It was a lot of fun. And I got to DJ some pretty cool parties too. Mostly weddings, but when you got just a party and it wasn't a wedding, not all the love songs and all the dances, and you just got to do a party, it was a lot of fun. I know there was one time we had the hog rally here in Indiana, and you actually were the head of the hog rally.
Well, I was, Cindy and I actually were the event coordinators.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And because I was DJing at that time, and you had contacted me, and I got to DJ that, and that was one of the weirdest nights of DJing ever. I had every motorcycle-oriented song possible on that set, and maybe played 3 songs. Everybody came up asking for every dance song possible. I'm
Right.
like, okay. I mean, if that's what you want to hear, that's fine.
I remember telling you, look, dude, just get any Southern rock song,
Right.
all right? If it's, and that's my era. My
Right,
era of people, if you're at a motorcycle thing, you're going to be listening to Allman Brothers,
Right.
The Outlaws, Molly Hatchet,
Uh-huh.
all those kind of, Black Oak, Arkansas. You're going to be listening to that kind of music. And I remember telling you, just, dude, if stick with that, nobody's going to complain. If somebody requests something, play what they want to hear. And I said, and I just remember walking away. I had to go do something else. And when I came back, you were playing, I don't know if it was the cha-cha slide or
It was one of them.
one of those that you see in a wedding.
Yes.
And I just remember walking back in, and I remember looking at you going, what the hell?
Well,
and you're putting hands up like, this is what they asked for.
Right.
I'm like, if they're asking for it. We had a freaking hoot that night.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
That was a blast.
I got played till midnight or close to 1 something. It was crazy.
Yes. And we had a blast.
Like, I'm running out of music. Like, this thing's got to come down at some point.
Yeah. Those were the old hog rallies, man. You used to have state hog rallies.
Right.
Harley owners group.
Yeah.
So it was a Harley thing, and every state did their own rally every year, and then we would do a national hog rally, which is how I got to meet Bubba Blackbelt for the very first time. He came out after his bad crash.
Del Mar.
He made his comeback as a stunt rider for Buell when the Buell motorcycles came out. He was a factory rider for Buell, was doing stunts, was not jumping anymore. He should have died.
Right.
And did not. He survived that Del Mar crash. And as he was getting back into motorcycles, was, doing stunts. He was doing he had booked some of these hog rallies, and he was out there doing stunts. Cindy rode a Buell Blast at the time. So here he is, a factory rider for Buell.
Right.
It was the coolest thing for her. We met. We all hit it off right away. Bubba and his wife and everybody we just hit it off. Next thing you know, we're running into him at different other events in the Midwest. And next thing you know, I finally in 2005 get a phone call from him saying, hey, I'm doing another big jump down here in Alabama. Would you want to come down and be part of the crew? And I'm like, hells yes. And so we made our way down to basically Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Yeah.
And in 2005, February of 2005, I did. So I'm coming up on it, the anniversary. I think it was February 5th.
Yeah.
And of 2005 was the first time I got a chance to do an event with them as part of the crew.
That's crazy.
And it just developed from there, and we've had a great relationship. So I think that's the one thing I've really enjoyed with motorcycling is you meet so many different people. You go to different events. You did an event with us with Bubba up at Ukes Harley Davidson.
Yes.
Up in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Can't even think of the name of the town now. Right when you get into.
It was.
But
it was up by Green Bay, I thought, or like just
not
south.
that far. It
just
was south
of Green Bay.
It was just into. It's just
was it?
Just as you get into Wisconsin before you even get to Milwaukee.
Was it Kenosha?
Kenosha. Thank you, Kenosha. Yeah, it's right just south of Racine.
That's yeah. Because I think we stayed in Racine and had to drive down to Kenosha to the dealership.
Yes.
Yeah.
So which was a very scary jump. It was a near catastrophe in that jump.
Yeah. I couldn't get the bike off the ramp when he got it. I don't know how he rode the bike onto the ramp. I mean, the gas tank was cracked. The front wheel was bent all up. It was like he waved me over, told me to grab the bike, and I did. I'm like, it's not going anywhere. I don't know what to do with this thing.
Yeah, that particular jump, I was up on a ski ramp because we had to have a ski ramp to get enough speed for him to make the jump.
Right.
So I was up there so I could spin him around once he got up to the top. So I was up there. I knew as soon as he left the takeoff ramp, it was not going to be good. And I remember running down and you could hear a pin drop in that parking lot. And there was, a ton of people out there. The place was packed. And it got deadly quiet. And all of a sudden I heard everybody cheering. I thought, there is no way. And he darn near flat landed that bike.
Yeah.
I mean, that was front wheel was on the blacktop. It wasn't on the bottom of the ramp.
Yeah, because he actually broke the ramp.
Yeah.
The
that was a brand new landing ramp. The very first time ever using that landing ramp, and we learned some tricks we had to do to it after that.
Yeah.
But when and that's what most people don't understand. When you do a motorcycle jump, when you're on a Harley doing a Harley motorcycle jump, right? These 750s are not made to fly through the air. They're supposed to be flat track motorcycles. They're flat track racers. They are not supposed to leave the ground. And when you land one of those, you only want to hit about the top 5 feet of that ramp is the perfect landing.
Yeah.
You flat land or you land at the bottom of that ramp, that's a hard landing, man. That's a lot to hang on to. Those are heavy motorcycles, a lot to hang on to. Mm-hmm. And he did manage to ride it back up. He never went down.
I don't know how.
That thing, like you said, the wheel was messed up. The front forks were messed up. Broke the gas tank with his gonads.
Yes.
It was a mess. But like even that event, though, Willie G was there. We got to meet Willie G, which is, if you're into Harleys, I mean, he's the man.
Yeah.
He was like, this is like the last of the real Harley Davidson owners right here. You know what I mean? It was like, and it was super cool. Mm-hmm. And so you get to do stuff like that. And you get to meet these kind of people, and it's just really neat. The motorcycle world, one thing I'll say about it, and I've said it in churches before, the church can learn an awful lot about love, or they can learn a lot from the motorcycle community.
Right.
The brotherhood.
Yes.
The companionship you have from other people when you ride a motorcycle, it's hard to pass. Now I know the cigar community will say the same thing.
Right.
You come into a place like this, I could be scrounging up whatever, I might be smoking a $7 or $8 cigar.
Right.
Whereas somebody else is going in there and they're grabbing that $50 cigar.
Right.
And but we can all sit here and talk and everybody's on a level playing field. I think that's why I like trying different cigars like this.
Yeah.
Now my favorite part is that first third, second third of the cigar is what I really enjoy. This cigar tastes so good. It's just got, and I can't sit there and tell you, oh, I can taste this and that.
Right.
What I can tell you is it's super smooth. It's got some kick to it. It's a little strong, but I like it that way. It's been a nice even burn. I knocked the ash off of it. I didn't have to.
Yeah.
I didn't have to because I smoke cheaper cigars than this. And they usually, when they get that big, they're going to fall off.
Right.
That was on there really tight. It wasn't coming off anytime soon.
Yeah. Oh, but to circle around back, how I got into filming with the show.
Oh, yeah.
We went way off into left field on that one. We went from how did you get into filming to meeting Kenny?
Well, because I was
Kenny G.
Kenny G.
Willie G.
So, because I was saying you were a DJ for a while at a younger age. How did you end up doing this?
Well, I think you guys were in your third year of the show, third or fourth year. You were going to do the Ride to the Wall with Rolling Thunder, and to be able to produce a really good looking show, because it wasn't just going to be a normal Steel Horse Thunder show. This was almost a documentary. So you needed extra camera guys to be able to get 2 shots and stuff like that. And Andy Lang from All Productions, who was doing all the filming and producing and all that at the time, asked if I'd ever held a camera, because I was at one of the rides you guys were doing. And he was talking to me. He was like, "Have you ever filmed anything?" I'm like, I've used a video camera, a camcorder at a house. And so he gave me a video camera and stood behind me, watched, and showed me what to do. I've never used a real, cinematography,
Right.
whatever you even call it, because I have no, what do you call that, like real training. I didn't go to any schooling or anything
Right.
like that, formal training. Um, so literally, it just, I think I had 4 weeks of him standing behind me and showing me how to do certain things with the camera. And he was like, dude, you've got some of the stillest shots I've ever seen without a rig. Like, you're just holding a camera and it's that still.
Mhm.
So I
And
got,
And I think it helped, not to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but you had come out to quite a few of our events where you were
Yes.
taking still photography.
yes.
You were using your phone or whatever. You were getting the still pictures for us. So
Yes.
you kind of had an idea of what we were looking
True.
for.
Yeah.
But I knew you had never ran a camera before, and I
No.
thought you'd only shot maybe three events before we went to
I think it
DC.
was only 3. And then we rented a minivan and Andy drove and I filmed all the action shots out of the minivan. I mean, literally with the door, sliding door open, hanging out the side of a minivan at 60 miles an hour.
What was your take on doing that? Now, we were gone for 5 days, on the road
Yes.
for 5 days. I know you used vacation time from your regular job so you could do
At
it.
the time, I just worked at Walmart at the time.
And so you had to use vacation time to be able to do that.
Yep.
And did it for super cheap.
Yeah.
But it was 5 days of being on the road. We rode, what was there, I think there was just over 100 of us that rode
Yes.
together from
Yeah.
Indianapolis.
Because they wanted it to be 100. That was the biggest they wanted. I think it ended up being like 103 or 104.
I was thinking it was just
It was
over.
just over 100.
But we left here. We stayed the night in Ohio. Then we then we finally got to DC the next night. The next day we had the big ride.
Right.
And then 1, 2. The next day we had an entire filming day.
Yeah. Like 20 hours of filming.
And then we had the big
crazy.
ride, and then we had the 2 days to get back home
Yes.
again. So, what was your take? Because, like you said, that was a documentary. That wasn't
Yes.
our half-hour show
No.
that we aired, a charity ride or whatever.
Right.
Rolling Thunder. I mean, this was a big deal. This
Yes.
was the ride to the wall. This was a demonstration ride. Don't ever call it a parade.
No, it's not a parade.
It's a demonstration ride. All about finding our POWs and all that. It was a very highly military thing.
Yes.
And you would have darn near 1 million motorcycles.
Yeah.
Eventually all end up at DC, and then we have the big demonstration ride.
Right.
And then we had two days to get back home.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts on that?
After only having 3 weeks of training, really, and then all of a sudden it's, 15-hour days of running cameras, making sure you've got batteries and lights and, extra mics, everything. And it got stressful. I'm not going to lie, because, no training, 3 weeks of on the job, trial runs.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden we were doing interview after interview after interview. And then I think we had a few camera malfunctions. So I didn't know what to do. They started getting stressed out. Andy had to calm me down and bring me back to zero. But it was one of the coolest weeks of my life. I mean, just what we were able to do, the stories we got to hear, and seeing in depth from people that were there in Vietnam.
Right.
And hearing their stories of what it was like. Because we see the movies and documentaries, and you can kind of feel it. But until you talk to an actual surviving veteran from Vietnam, you just don't really understand what they went through. Because I know there's a few times that, you and Cindy broke down on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And to have to sit there and still record you guys
right
as you're breaking down is probably one of the hardest things to ever do. I mean, I'm sure if you've been in, films over and over and over doing camera work, it probably doesn't bother you. But that's also fake and not real.
Right.
Most of it is fake.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, just emotional is probably the most underestimate you could say for it. But I mean, like, because like you guys were at the Pentagon, one of their parking lots, and I literally rode on the back of one of the bikes to the Pentagon. Me and Andy, or Andy and I, both rode on the backs of motorcycles to the Pentagon, did interviews there, and then I think it was about a half hour before it started, I had to go and walk across the Potomac all the way from the Pentagon to downtown DC. I'm trying to think, I don't remember the intersection where it was, but it was, according to my phone, it was a 5-mile walk with camera equipment hanging on me. I'm sure people were like, what is this dude doing? But yeah, I mean, it was just one of the coolest experiences of my life.
Bar none, 11 seasons of doing Steel Horse Thunder, bar none, the greatest episode we ever filmed. Now, we've got some really good ones. But it was so different than what we normally do.
Right.
For me, personally, it was just, I finally learned what Memorial Day was really all about.
Yes.
The ride itself, I was riding my bike. Cindy was riding her bike. Riding with everybody. It was much harder than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
Only because when you stop, you have to, everybody is going in there. Now you got,
right.
You got 100 people that are going in at the same time now to a gas station, to a wherever, whatever our stop is, when it's time to eat lunch.
Yeah.
Well, we have to do the interviews then.
Keep working and take a break.
Yeah, so while everybody else is getting their break, we're hustling like crazy to film.
Yes.
By the time we get done filming, it's time to get back on the bikes.
Right.
I can remember one day, it was, I don't know, it was 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I realized I had not eaten or drank anything yet that day.
Right.
You know what I mean? The closest thing I had to drink was when I brushed my teeth that morning and spit toothpaste into the sink. It was the closest to a drink I had that entire day. Nothing to eat. And it was like, dang. I remember when we finally got to DC, we got into our room, we parked the bike, we hopped in the van with you guys, and we go out, and next thing you know, we're filming until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was close to 20 hours of actual work that day.
And I think that's what people don't understand.
Yeah.
Because then when we're done filming, you guys are editing.
Yeah, well, Andy was. I was not. Yeah. He was trying to let me sleep. But, I mean, literally, as soon as we got done, got to the hotel room, because, me and Andy shared a room, we had all the computer equipment. Right. He had it up on the desk, and we were loading in SD cards, getting stuff downloaded, and he was starting to do editing immediately. I mean, it was nuts.
It was a lot of work.
It was.
It was again, it was a life-changing weekend for us. The only reason we could do that was somebody sponsored that ride.
Yeah.
My good buddy Sammy Allen, his company, sponsored that ride, donated the money for us to be able to do that ride. Otherwise, I mean, we couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford it.
Right.
And so, but it was a life-changing moment for us, being able to do that. The Pentagon. There's just the thought of when you're sitting in a Pentagon, people will say, well, what does a million motorcycles look like? It's like, well, you'll never see a million of them at one time.
No, you can hear them.
I can tell you what 300,000 looks like, because that's what would fit in the one parking lot of the. And they had 3 parking lots that we used at the Pentagon. And you could fit 300,000 motorcycles in each Pentagon. Yeah. Or in each parking lot.
Yeah.
So it's just, it was
crazy.
Absolutely nuts. Yeah. And like you said, you had to walk somewhere. I know we had hired somebody there in DC to do some shots. So they had a spot they were going to be at.
Yeah.
I think Andy Lang was in a sidecar.
Sidecar or trike or something like that.
So it was the.
So he filmed on the ride.
It's the only time he's ever been on a motorcycle.
Really?
Only time ever on a motorcycle. And that's why
I did not know
that's
that.
why we work so good together. I said,
Mhm.
brother, I don't know anything about filming, and you don't know anything about motorcycles. I said, let me handle the motorcycle side. You handle the production side. We're going to get along fine.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for 11 seasons, we got along absolutely fine.
Mm-hmm.
We got along great. Now, saying that, when you spend 5 days all together, we're
Yes.
running and we're going and we're not sleeping.
Right.
Sure. We get
It gets a
grouchy.
little tense.
We get grouchy, and at times you're kind of getting at each other.
Right.
You know, same thing with Bubba. You get on the road with Bubba, and, you know, there was times me and him got into it. Me and him, you know, it's like family. You know, at that point in time, you're like family. And hey, I had 3 brothers and a sister, and I fought with every one of them. So it's just kind of that same thing. And you kind of learn, all right, don't get offended. Let it roll off, because you're going to say something in the heat of the moment. It's not going to make you feel real good, but you know afterwards everything's going to be fine. They're going to be saying, "Hey, I'm sorry," and you know, it's just doing those kind of things. I want to do more of that kind of stuff, but it's just so expensive, and nowadays it's just ridiculous expensive. Yes. You know, that's the reason we're not on TV anymore. Right. The whole reason we're like, this is a waste of money to go on TV. Nobody's watching TV anymore.
No, and when the networks are canceling channels, left and right, it's like, okay, well, this network just dropped our channel, so now we're only reaching 35% of the audience that we had.
Yeah, and that may only last for a month or two, but it's still, that's a month or two that I'm still paying the same amount. Yeah, I'm not getting a discount. I'm paying the same amount I've been paying. Our sponsors are paying the same amount they've been paying, and now all of a sudden, now they've got a time where they're not getting hardly any views. So.
And now being on YouTube, being on Facebook, I mean, literally the sky's the limit on the show where we want to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Or where you guys want to take it. I'm just here for the ride.
No, I'm looking forward to doing these podcasts, having different guests on here. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yep. You know, I still work other jobs. You know, that's what a lot of people don't realize that either. You know, I still work a regular job. Cindy still works a regular job. Right. You still work a regular job. And it's very hard to do a full-time show when you're still working full-time jobs elsewhere. A lot of work. You get really tired. And in all honesty, now that we're not on TV and we're actually doing this kind of stuff, I'm doing more now than I was before. Right. But it's so much more fun now. There's a freedom.
It's somehow more enjoyable.
Yes.
It's weird.
Much more enjoyable.
Right.
I was hoping we'd be able to go 12 seasons. Mm-hmm. We're getting ready to start our 12th season, and I'm looking at it like I'm pretty sure I got, you know, at least 3 more in me. Right. You know what I mean? I am 62 years old right now. I'll be 63 this year. Mm-hmm. You know, I'd like to go at least till 65. And then who knows? You know, I'm going to be looking here for the next one to take over this when I'm ready to retire. Right. But as of right now, I see us doing this at least a few more years. Mm-hmm. Hopefully longer than that. You know, as long as I'm healthy and feeling good, I don't see myself not doing this. Right. But like I said, my goal was to make it 12 seasons, just like Steve did. He retired at 63. After his 12th season, I'll be 63 after my 12th season. I thought, well, if I can at least match what he did. Now, I think I can go longer than that. So I'm looking at all the people we got to know and got to meet. You know, and again, I don't get into politics, but, you know, here in Indiana, we did work with Mike Pence as our governor. And I don't care what party you're with, whether you're right, left, middle, none of the above, I don't care. But as a person, Mike Pence treated us very good. Oh, yeah. I mean, I considered him a friend. Right. You know what I mean? If he was one of those guys, if he saw us, or if we saw him, we could approach him anytime. Right. He would approach us anytime. It didn't matter. It didn't have to be motorcycle oriented or anything. Yeah. if we bump into each other, we're going to sit and talk for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
It was just that kind of a relationship, kind of cool.
Right.
Now that he was the vice president, whether you liked him or not,
Right.
you know what I mean?
To say that you were friends with the vice president of the United States,
Yeah.
it's a pretty big deal.
And I see people all the time. It's like, if you're a Republican, Obama's in office. Well, I wouldn't want to go talk to him. I wouldn't even go to that.
Right.
I was like, really? Or, well, I'm a Democrat. I ain't going to go talk to Mike Pence. Really? It's like, they're kind of powerful people.
Right.
Wouldn't you want to just at least talk to them? And
see what they're like.
There's some presidents I didn't care much for.
Right.
I'm not going to name names, but if I had the opportunity to meet them, I'm probably going to go over and say hi.
Right.
You know what I mean? But, I think about all the people that we got to do a lot of stuff with. People like Jeff Saturday from the Indianapolis Colts. Being based out of Indianapolis, we got to do a lot of stuff with the Colts.
Yes. Getting to meet a lot of the Colts. That was pretty cool.
It's very cool, and to me, those are just the perks. Those are the extra perks you get. And,
right.
And anybody that says they don't enjoy that, they're lying.
Right. Oh yeah, I can't wait to see the people we get to meet doing this.
Right.
I mean, I know I'm not always going to be on the camera with you during it.
Right.
But I'll still be mic'd up in the background to interject with things. But just to be able to meet some of the people that we got on our list that we want to have on the show.
Right.
It's going to be pretty cool.
It's super cool. And what else is going on? Anything else? Because I did want to get an idea how you got involved with the show and all that kind of stuff. And
I know, last year was a big step. Switching over to Facebook, YouTube, social media.
Mm-hmm.
We because of different sponsorship things going on, we've had to have all productions, had to let them take a step down because, funds are what they are. So I kind of had to step up, and from the training that Andy gave me, being able to kind of fill in that role of not really producing the show, but filming, editing, and stuff like that.
Right.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of learning because I didn't get to learn a whole lot of the editing, earlier on. So that's been fun. And then, this year is going to be my first full year of doing all of that stuff for the show. So it's going to be interesting.
And that's the thing I want everybody to know. Without Andy Lang and All Productions,
right,
we would never. I mean, he literally has been grooming us for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
He is much smarter than I am when it comes to this stuff. He's younger than I am, so he understands a lot more.
Yes.
You're younger than I am. You understand. You guys were the ones that talked me into finally getting off TV. Wished I would have done it 3 years ago when you told me to. Old dogs, we have a hard time learning the new tricks.
Right.
But, you guys really pushed for this.
Yes.
And in all honesty, Andy did everything he could do to help us, knowing that, listen, I know I'm probably working myself out of a job.
Right.
He's literally said that.
Yes.
I understand that the direction things are going, I may not be needed anymore.
Right.
But that's the kind of the integrity that he had. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's his integrity is, I want the show to continue.
Right.
And this is the direction the show needs to go. And I realize at some point in time, it's not going to, behoove us to have All Productions on board. And, myself, I've always said, if we can, I want All Productions on board because we've worked together so good.
Yes.
But I do understand where we're at right now. Obviously, that's not even an option right now.
Right.
So, I am looking forward to this new adventure.
Uh-huh.
I think the podcasts are going to be really good. And what I'm hoping for is people will start watching the podcast.
Right.
And then actually go to YouTube and start looking up some of our things. Because here's my biggest if I have one complaint over the last 11 years, is that the ride we did, the ride to the wall,
Yeah.
and I know Andy re-edited all that to where it's on YouTube now. It's only 42, 43
Yes. Yeah.
minutes.
Something like that. Yeah.
Took commercials out, all that stuff, and it's only 43 minutes long, and it's still one of the least viewed shows that we've ever
Yeah.
put up. And to me, that breaks my heart.
Right.
It absolutely breaks my heart because it's so good.
Yeah.
I watch it every Memorial weekend.
Yeah.
Every weekend. On Memorial Day, I take time out to watch that,
Mm-hmm.
remind myself what Memorial Weekend's really all about. It's,
Right.
as much as I love getting out on a boat and
Right.
having a cooler full of beer and a cigar and having cookouts and all that.
Uh-huh. That's not what
That's
not what it's about.
It's not what Memorial Weekend is
Right.
really about. And so I watch it once a year, at least once a year. But I watch that, and there's times I have tears in my eyes because it's so well put together.
Oh, yeah, his editing job on that episode was
It's
just
fantastic.
That could have been a real documentary on Travel Channel, History Channel, anything like that.
Exactly.
It was amazing.
I'm going to put that cigar down for just a minute.
Yeah.
But I will say, Rocky Patel, San Andreas, this black,
Yeah.
it's been a really, really good
I
cigar.
was going to say, it's burned really smoothly.
It's a nice burning cigar. It burns very well. I have a tendency to cut, when I cut a cigar, I have a tendency to keep a tight draw.
Yes. Yeah.
Problem with the tight draw is they don't always stay lit.
Right.
But I like a tighter draw, so therefore every now and then I know I'm going to have to relight. And when we're doing something like this and you're just sitting there holding it, they have a tendency to go out when you neglect them. But I know as long as we're coming here to Gillispies, I'm going to make sure I pick a different cigar every time.
Yeah.
So I have something new to try. And this one, like I said, this cigar has been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Every cigar I've had here, there was one cigar. I had one cigar that I tried from here that I didn't care for.
Yeah.
But it had nothing to do with, it wasn't a good cigar or anything, it had nothing to do with.
It just wasn't one that you would like.
It wasn't my palate.
Right.
So for me, if I catch one every now and then,
right.
Now don't get me wrong. Now, if I'm going to be paying, for me, anything above $15,
yeah,
I want to make sure I like it.
Right.
If I don't like if I buy a $20 cigar and I don't care for it, it bums me out.
Right.
For me, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I smoke my regular sticks. If I buy a box of them or whatever, I'll smoke anything, $4, $5, $6 cigars.
Right.
I've got some, good and well, the one I have that I love.
Yeah.
It was like 85 cents a stick.
Yeah. I did get some that were that cheap, and I did not care for them.
I actually like. There's then they burn quick.
Yes, yeah.
It's a cheap cigar, but they burn quick and all that. But they're actually really good cigars. I enjoy them. So to me, I don't care whether it's a $50 cigar or a $2 cigar. It's if you enjoy it.
Right.
If I can sit down and smoke a $2 cigar, enjoy it, and have a good time, to me, it's well worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Same way as on a good special occasion. I can remember a Christmas Eve, I went out and I bought some of the, Padrones, whatever it is, the 64s or whatever. They're, $30 cigar.
Right.
And I remember buying a few of those for some friends, and we sat around on Christmas Eve, sat around a big old giant bonfire, and we smoked those cigars, and it was like, that's a really, really good cigar. I can't smoke a $30 cigar every time.
Right.
I don't have that in my budget. So yeah. You got anything else to add to this?
I don't think so. Just excited to see, our guest lineup, who we can get in. I know our next episode is going to be, I lost his name.
Well, a lot of people know him as Cowboy.
Yes, Cowboy.
But John Glass.
John Glass, yeah. I know he's going to be the next episode. It's going to be a fun one. And we're working on, the next few to get lined up.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, I think the coolest ones are probably going to be the ones that almost aren't motorcyclists. if we can get some musicians that we're talking to,
Mm-hmm.
they ride, but the podcast is mainly going to be about the music,
Right.
music side, and I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
To talk to a lot of different people from
Yep.
every side of life.
And that's what I think this is all about, going beyond the motorcycle. Yes, the motorcycle is how we got to know. The motorcycle, we have that in common. That's a common bond.
Right.
And I definitely want to know about your motorcycle experiences. But now it's like, but you're a musician.
Right.
You make your living as a musician. You travel the world or travel the country playing music. What's it like? What are your experiences? How does your motorcycle... your motorcycle adventures, do they inspire you when you're, like me? I know as a minister, there were times where I was trying to put something together. If I knew, now I don't do this much anymore as far as in church preaching, pulpit preaching or whatever. Did it forever.
Right.
Did it for many, many 20 some years.
Yeah.
I don't do a whole lot in the church anymore. But back in those days when I was trying to, as an evangelist, I traveled and went to different churches.
Yeah.
And I can remember trying to get a message that I wanted to get out, and times where you just can't write it on paper. And I could just put the pen down, go hop on the motorcycle, ride for 2 hours.
Right.
And then I could come back to the house, take my pen and paper, and it would just flow right out of me.
Right.
Just because I got on the bike and was able to just get away from everything else. And
clear the mind.
And I would like to see how many other the musicians, the daredevils, what do you do to finally get yourself in that place? So that's what I'm looking forward to. I just wanted everybody to get to understand who we are.
Yep.
I'd like to have Cindy on here at some point in time.
Oh yeah.
But this has been a lot of fun. Cameraman Wes, I'm so glad you came out here with us.
Yeah.
Came out here, getting all this stuff rolling, hanging here at Gillispie's. My beer is about empty.
Right.
So now I'm ready to probably get a refill and maybe fire the cigar back up and just sit back and enjoy it. Well, hey, thank you guys for tuning in to the very first episode of Steel Horse Thunder and Beyond, the podcast. Cameraman Wes, I'm looking so forward to doing more of these.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of fun, man. Had a blast up at Gillispie's. What do you think about Gillispies Cigar Bar?
Oh, I mean, you can't say enough good about it. I mean, it's the coolest environment, nice, friendly people, amazing drinks, great cigar selection. I mean, you just can't say anything bad about it. It's just a great location.
Yeah, super location. I really love just the whole atmosphere they have there. It's just super cool, man. So I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about Steel Horse Thunder, about Scott and about Cameraman Wes and what we're trying to do here. This was kind of our introductory and introducing ourselves to everybody. So we've got a lot of other guests lined up. We've got people lined up to talk about putting charity rides together on motorcycles. And Professor Anderson's going to be on here talking about safety and different safety tips that we need to know to stay safe on motorcycles.
Right.
And after that, who knows?
It's beyond.
It is beyond. It is beyond. And I want to talk about more than just motorcycles. I want to be able to go beyond.
Right.
I love talking about the cigars, that we're smoking at the time. And, I don't know. I watch people all the time, and it's like, you know what? I bet they'd be fun to just have a beer with and just sit down. And that's kind of what this podcast is all about.
Yeah.
I love being able to have a beer. I love being able to smoke a cigar and just kind of, you don't really have a script. You just kind of get to do what you want to do while you're doing it. And to me, that's what motorcycling is all about. Right. I mean, Yeah. So, all right, man, I know you got a lot of good plans for this, and I know you've got some good insights on this. And all I can say is Cameraman Wes, and we're calling you Cameraman Wes.
I know.
And always have.
Right.
And you're kind of jumping more into the production end of things and putting things together, editing and all that kind of stuff. And all I can say is thank you so much for what you're doing. And I am looking forward to doing a lot more of these podcasts with you.
Yes.
As long as you promise that you stay mic'd up, even when you're not in front of the camera, I want you mic'd up so you can interject whenever you feel like it.
All right. We can do that.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And right now, we're planning on doing one a month. If this takes off, we'll start doing more than that. But for right now, we're going to do one a month. So here's our first one. We'll have another one next month. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And, from the cafe, we'll see you later.